Hi, everybody. Welcome to Squared Up. I'm Bill Swinford.
And I'm Monica Daniels.
And that's
Tom Mann over here.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, guess what? We got Monica back. She chose to come back from Florida.
I did.
To some very cold and windy weather.
Yeah. I just almost got blown off the road even on the way back. I hit the tail end of the storm. Yeah, driving through the mountains. I was really fortunate that it cleared up as much as I did by the time it was time for me to drive back. But I did catch some of that storm.
I hear that's flying right now, like the wind is blowing through your hair right now.
Okay.
But we had quite a Friday night that came after we recorded our last podcast here locally. Mm-hmm. That then translated into a tough driving day on Saturday for you. Coming home. And we were just talking a little bit about some of the coverage that our team did, Swinford Media Group's team did on that Friday night. And Tom said you were glued to it.
Yeah, I was glued to it. Aaron's coverage, the live driving through, giving me the radar, everything I wanted to know. It was just a great job. And we were actually watching that. So that's what we were watching. And I've been being the old TV news and whatever guy that I've been, I had a lot of things on. I got more from Aaron.
Yeah.
It was really good, and I really appreciated that. That was such a good job because I felt like he was talking to me because he was in Franklin, Williamson,
He was everywhere.
Yeah. And Jackson, he was in Jackson County. I thought he was in the different areas, so it was great.
Yeah, he was going where the weather was, and as a boss, I was both proud and terrified of what he was going to run into.
Yeah.
But he did a great job. I stayed on the line with him almost as long as he did, watching, and as you did. It sounds like watching.
I watched him pretty much till the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so shout out to Aaron Price. Aaron does a lot of that kind of on his own time, doing it completely unassigned. We certainly appreciate it, but he goes above and beyond all expectations that we have on those nights, and it really has made him a go-to person. Now, we'll remind you every time, he's not a trained meteorologist. He's somebody that we've known since he was 14. He's always studied the weather. He's made relationships with the National Weather Service. He has access to the radars and the other through the apps that are available to basically the same types of devices that and information that the meteorologists are accessing. He's accessing it too, and he's learned how to interpret it. And he's learned how to communicate from the National Weather Service, translate that all to the rest of us, and done a nice job. And doing it so often, as you mentioned, while he's driving down the road, showing you what he sees, and people really appreciate that. So,
and then the post-storm stuff, the drone, being a drone pilot myself, the drone stuff I saw from him, the different shots of different things that were damaged around the area. It gave you an overview of what had happened,
right,
and the area that was affected. And there were individuals who really had some pretty serious damage. So I found all of that there.
Yeah, and I would kind of
Swinford Media, that's where it was.
I kind of thought that he would, by this point, be focusing strictly on going into being a meteorologist, studying for that and training for that. But he's training as a journalist who likes to, he takes an interest in a lot of fields, all news and sports and weather. Mm-hmm. And he does a nice job learning, communicating, again, connecting with the right people and getting you the information. So shout out to him, and my son Ross does a certain level of information sharing and graphics along that line too.
That was great.
And the rest of us are just staying up and kind of monitoring it all. Yeah. But we do appreciate his work. And this lends to a conversation I want to have today. This has to do with a TV show, because we all have parts of our job that we really get into, mm-hmm. but there might be other parts of our job that we just kind of wish could just happen without us, that was the tedious stuff or something. Or there may be parts of our life that we would rather just kind of block out and not have to deal with. And we have started watching this show that is all the rage now when you hear everybody talking about it.
Yeah.
It's on Apple TV. It's a show that you can stream called Severance. And it's created by a writer who just submitted a script to Ben Stiller, who took it on to produce it. Ben's involved in directing and producing this. Ben, if you know Ben's work, always entertaining, sometimes just flat out silly and hilarious. But
Yeah.
this is really deep, fascinating stuff. Also entertaining.
Yeah, it's kind of a thriller.
Yeah,
more,
but
a
also
little bit.
a little comedic, you know.
Yeah.
It's very light moments, and it sounds like a very heavy premise. So, Tom, have you seen this at all?
No, I haven't. And what is it on? Where is it on? Where
It's
do I
on
find it?
Apple TV. So,
okay.
if you're not into any streaming services, you'd have to subscribe to Apple TV in order to see this. But if there's ever a show that I've seen that I would recommend subscribing to one of these services just to watch this one show, it's that good. So let's talk a little bit about it. Let's explain it to Tom best we
Okay.
can.
Without
Okay.
giving away
Vince,
spoilers.
go simple with me on this one.
All right,
Okay.
you give it a shot.
Basically, it's a company that has advertised a work-life balance opportunity for people where they can have a procedure done in their brain where when they would go to work, they would forget their outside life. And then when they would leave work, they would forget their job life. So they have a complete memory loss of everything that happens at work when they're at home.
Is that kind of like me with ADD,
And-
where I just get memory loss? I'm accused of that often.
No, well, I mean, ADD, you forget like little brief moments that you can recapture if you focus hard enough to try to recover that information. But it's a medical procedure and it creates a total block so you have no idea what you're doing at work. And when you're at work, you have no idea what happens when you leave work. There's just,
And it leads
it's-
to basically two individuals in one body, because you have a version of yourself that is considered your innie. In other words, inner self that is brought out for your work job, and that person, when that person first is brought into this place and begins training, they realize they have no memory of who they are. They have managed to hold on to some basic human skills and information and knowledge, but they don't know a whole lot even about the outside world, and it's a very stressful thing initially for these innies to go through to realize what the setup is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you have the outside person who doesn't know anything about his or her innie and what they're going through all day long, and it's all done in a way that, because of this chip they have in their brain, it's activated when in the case of Severance, when they go to the Severance floor of this industry, which is an elevator ride, and on that elevator something magnetically, electronically switches on and off this Severance switch.
Yeah, as they're on their elevator going down, there's something in the technology in the elevator that switch them over to their work person.
How do they know when to leave?
Well, then they leave and then
They work a normal work
Yeah.
day, and they come to learn that they will leave at 5 o'clock, and when they get back in that elevator,
Then they know why.
Yeah. Now, so the first, yes, and the first fascinating thing that happens is for the innie, the person that's working the job, their experience is basically they get on the elevator, and then when they get back off the elevator, they're right back on the job because they have no experience of the outside world of getting off the elevator and going home. So it's basically just like you fall asleep and wake up and you don't even remember falling asleep, and you come out. Now, that basically means they never sleep. They never have a sleep experience, a rest experience, but they do feel rested because their outie has slept for 8 hours, and then they come back. And it's obviously this is science fiction. We don't know if it would really work that way, and raise some questions to me. Okay, when I think about having that kind of a setup, which it doesn't seem like a great idea to me, but we all have things in our life that cause us either temporary or intense mental
Focus. I would say focus on what you're doing at the hand. I have that problem all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm literally hyper focused, and then I'm not.
and distract you away from being able to focus on your work, but also for those on the outside looking to escape from even some pain they might be going through. One of the main characters, the main character in this show, is somebody whose wife has died tragically. He's found himself trapped in alcoholism as a result, and he's completely unproductive, can't make a living. He'd been a teacher and no longer can function. And that the attraction for him is that he could go to a workplace every day, drag himself to a workplace in his depressed state, and then this other version of himself who knows nothing about that emotion, those feelings, that pain, could then go on and work for 8 hours and be productive for 8 hours and then come back. He loses 8 hours out of his day, but it's 8 hours a day that he's not feeling the pain, experiencing it, and then there's 8 hours of the day where he's actually able to be productive and make a living. And so there's all these different reasons that these characters choose to go through this procedure and join this severance floor of this industry. I'll tell you what, this whole company that they work for turns out to be very sinister.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Don't give any spoilers. No,
I'm not.
It actually brings up
you learn pretty quick. This is a weird company that they're working for.
Yeah, it is weird. But it brings up a lot of situations that you wouldn't think of. That obviously it's not the best idea.
But we all have our what I was going to say is we all have our escapes that we make from the difficulties of life, right? And some of them are poisonous, and some of them make life more difficult. And sometimes but even those of us who are just dealing with the struggle of a workaday life or a grind, or even if that's as hard as life gets, we look for ways to lighten that load and be able to do it and be able to get through it.
So the main actor in that movie, his name's Adam Scott.
Adam Scott,
right? He actually, we watched an interview with him last night that was so hilarious. He gets these aggressive emails from his friends because this show is one of the worst at leaving cliffhangers that leave you so frustrated. Like, what just happened?
Every
and
episode.
Why do I have to wait until next week?
Makes you watch it. Makes you watch it.
It does,
yeah.
but it also kind of makes you a little bit like
Mad?
Mad, yeah. Kind of makes you angry. So I'm like, yeah, I can see why his friends are leaving him those messages. I mean, he thinks, of course, it's all just in fun, and he calls back and leaves equally aggressive messages on there.
So for those who are listening and watching right now, I want to let you know that we are not talking about belly buttons when we're talking about the innies and outies. We're talking about a television series that Monica and Bill have just gone nuts over. So
that was my first thought when I heard the term
innie. That's what makes me innie and outie.
Buddies,
yeah,
but
belly button.
like after you get into your second season, it's just a normal part of language.
It's
of the
just part of
show.
language.
Yeah, just part of the show.
Did Ben Stiller have anything to do with the innie outie thing? I wonder if that's what.
Oh, I'm sure. I feel like so much of the comedic element that runs through it, and that's one of the things, because it can be a heavy, almost dystopian kind of a feel to it, right?
Yeah.
Because it does turn into that kind of a story. He's got this comedic line that runs under it that makes even the heaviest moments a little bit lighter sometimes, and entertaining and just ridiculous.
You can't tell what year it's set in. The computers are those old, huge computers.
The CRT or the big
cars are super old.
Oh,
the
gosh,
hairstyles are really outdated. So it's really difficult to tell or pinpoint exactly when it is.
Going to my high school years, I wonder back.
Well, it
feels that way. It feels like the 70s and 80s, in
yeah.
some design elements, but then when they go to the outside world, it doesn't seem like that. It just a weird place. We're not even sure where. We seem to believe it's in America somewhere, but we're not even sure where that is. It's just that it's one of these areas where this company is so large that it's kind of taken over the community, and it kind of runs everything, including schools and other things. And when we talk about the lives that we live and the jobs that we do, what first of all, how blessed we are to live in a place that we do, where we can find healthy outlets for dealing with, whether it's dealing with our jobs or our relationships or the difficulties of life or our memories, or we have healthy outlets, people that are supportive, people that will come around us and be available to us, and then just go outside and enjoy this wonderful nature that we have. The other part of this is when you see the outside world, it does seem like a colder, more depressed area.
Yeah.
Very gray.
Right.
And it's just kind of like sometimes the weird inner world of this factory, even though it's kind of a claustrophobic office setting, there is some color to it. They have their waffle parties and their dance breaks, and it's kind of like this. It's kind of like this company has understood that for these people, because remember, these innies, their whole life is work. Everything they experience is work.
They came to being there.
They came into being, and if
that's all they know.
their person leaves this company, they will cease to exist. There would no longer be switching to that mode of that person's. Even though they've had this chip in their brain, there's never going to be anything to switch them to their innie again. So if their outie leaves the company, they are done existing, and that's a little bit of a fear some of them have that will happen.
Right.
And what if I don't feel like I'm saying that much. I'm not giving away. There's just so many things.
Well, it definitely
this.
opens up a whole new realm of experiences that you wouldn't think would come into play when you first hear the premise. Oh, okay, so their work life is separated from their home life. They just don't remember it. But then just to see the whole can of worms of experiences that brings about for these people, and the problem solving that they have to do, it just opens up all kinds of depth to it that you're not going to imagine just off the top of your head until you start experiencing it through the show.
So again, the show, the name is
Severance,
and it's on Apple TV.
It's on Apple TV.
Okay.
There was a season shot during COVID that then aired for the first time, I think, in 2022. And it was a 10-episode season, and they had shot the whole thing during COVID. No idea whether that would be the only season or not. It instantly became a hit to a certain level in 2022. My son Ross had watched those episodes and told me about it several years ago. It took them 3 more years because of a writer's strike and some other things that happened in there, including the wrapping up of COVID. It took them 3 more years to get the next season out. And that season came out last year and just is wrapped up this past week.
Yes, and now we have to wait till 2026.
So now it's going to be at least another year, we're told.
Oh,
They
wow.
are beginning production on another season, but it's going to be at least another year before there's more. And there's the cliffhangers can continue.
Oh yeah, it was a painful cliffhanger. I knew they were going to do that to me.
But I'm telling you,
So,
I feel like I
went into the
texted
show.
my
I'm like,
I texted my sons. I texted my sons last night. I said, I really believe this is the best show I've ever seen. So it's really it's really weird as you step into it. It takes an episode or two for you really to connect to it. But I think even if you watch one episode, you're going to want to watch another one.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's going to start turning into all you think about, to the point where you almost need Severance. So that you can stop thinking about it and actually go on with your life.
So since I have to wait now till 2026, Severance is dead to me.
Oh,
No, I have to wait till 2026. I'm just like,
just block it out.
block it out. I need
Speaking of that,
Severance
is
with
that-
Severance, so I won't.
is that a
bug
good
me.
segue into something else you were talking about earlier?
It is.
It's dead to me. What was it?
Yes. Oh, you mean her?
What?
What were you saying that about? That it's dead to me.
What was I saying? What are you talking about?
Severance. He said that because until 2026, because it was so,
Yeah. So now
just can't.
I need my own Severance procedure, so I won't remember Severance. I won't be wondering what the heck happened.
What else was she saying? This is before we went on the air.
Yeah, she was
stuff?
talking about is a very sad story. She said that it almost ended between the two of you, and I have to hear this story because you said you're going to wait and tell me. So,
Right.
so now that we're on light and fluffy right now, let's go right into that.
Oh yeah. So
Well, we were
it?
why were you even talking with Tom about that? Was it have to do with this sinus pressure
The
you're feeling right now?
allergies,
So a lot of people are
yeah,
going through this right now with the weather.
yeah,
And-
I woke up Monday morning,
It's relatable.
2 a.m. with a excruciating migraine. Was throwing up. My eyes have been watering nonstop.
Yeah.
And today too. So, which led to a story of when I thought Bill was going to end our relationship when he learned that.
You had a talent that he didn't like?
Yeah, I had a talent he didn't like that I didn't know I had. I was traveling through the mountains with my boys, and I went to, open up the pressure in my ears, and I learned that I have an ability to whistle through my eye. So, and Bill was so disturbed.
That's very disturbing.
Bill was so disturbed by this. He was
I you're gonna need to
thought it was gonna be
demonstrate that
over between
sometime.
us because he's like, you can do what? No. So I've never done that in front of him. But my boys think it's kind of cool and kind of gross at the same time, and they're, occasionally. But yeah, I have a
Which
human trick, which
Bill was grossed out by.
Stupid.
Kind of really makes you
Human-
look at Monica a whole different way. It does. So it's not a good
I
time to
can
ask you to do it.
whistle through my eye. We're not going to do it today because my sinuses are all full of fluids.
So
and-
sometime we're going to do this for you, and
Yeah.
then we'll see if that really does end it. I don't know because I've never really.
Eye whistler. That's going to be good. That could be your
I
name.
offered to demonstrate it, and he was like,
No thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Interesting. That is a story I've never thought would come up.
Yeah, no, it's it's unique. It's
"Do you want to hear about my suction cup ears that can?"
What's that? Another
I also have this awkward hug maneuver that happens occasionally where my ears are like shaped like suction cups, and I'll go to hug someone, it'll stick under their cheek and pop off like a.
That's kind of like having a salamander
And
ear.
it's embarrassing. I'm like, I'm sorry, I did not kiss you. That was my ear. It like suction cups.
take a good look at these ears.
Like-
What it is about them
I've never.
that I don't think I've ever experienced that.
I have to be careful with my hugs so I don't have
Yeah.
an
Suction
awkward
cup ears.
Suction cup.
Able to whistle through her eye. See, that's multi-talented. That's totally different. I've never run into that.
Thanks for sharing all that.
So what else is happening here?
Well, I was going to share a few things out of the
Go
papers.
ahead, yeah.
Maybe this seems like a good time to switch gears.
Feel free to edit that out.
And no, we never edit anything.
No, not that kind of stuff. Brian. We keep that in.
Speaking of Aaron Price and speaking of tornadoes, he's done a documentary that you can find on the WFCN YouTube channel that is on the tri-state tornadoes 100 years later. 1925 was the tri-state tornado. Here we are 100 years later, and this was a huge tornado that was devastating to 3 states. It started in Missouri, swept through, similar to what we were experiencing the other night, swept through southern Illinois, and then it went all the way to Indiana and created devastation also in Indiana before it kind of dissipated. And in this case, it wiped out, I remember the first village that it wiped out was Gorham as it came across the river into Illinois. First Illinois community came through, devastated Murfreesboro. Murfreesboro got hit hard. Made a line to West Frankfort, and West Frankfort got hit hard. And this is a different time. This is 100 years ago when there was not the communication that happened. There was not the foreknowledge. There was not the ability to get on WFCN or any other
Get an alert on your phone.
get other communication and
Yeah.
get an alert on your phone to let you know it's coming. A lot of these folks had no idea. They saw it clouding up. They could tell there were storms coming, but they had no idea of the chances of this kind of tornado. And this tornado is documented by Aaron in this story, having interviewed some folks, and just really well edited footage of that includes obviously not much video, but a lot of old photos and a lot of stories that were told. And so I wanted to give a shout out to that. Tom's got a copy I believe, of the book that was written about this tornado.
Yeah.
And he picked up a copy of that this week. Tell us where you
Actually,
got that.
my wife. We went to the event with John Musgrave that he had, and it was really good. And my wife picked up this book. This is one he was actually recommending if you want to know a little bit more about it, since it's 100 years ago.
Right.
And it's Death Rides the Sky.
Yeah.
And was it Angela Mason?
Yeah. Came out a few years ago.
Yeah. So
Really
we
well
picked
done.
that one up.
Really well done book,
So
too.
there's a lot of good stuff to it.
Thanks to him for that. So as we were talking about, there's definitely one other little something that I want to bring up that I got to pulled into a meeting about this morning. We talk about like the need to have ways to kind of lighten the load and brighten our lives. One of the things that we talk about quite often is the power of music. The power of music is so important. The power of both the ability to learn and perform music, the ability for the rest of us just to sit and listen to our songs. I always say it's music can be the closest thing we have to a time machine, because it can take us back to a point in our lives, and we can remember the emotions and that we felt when we heard a certain song, and that can come right back when we hear a song. And obviously that could be for good, that could be for sorrow, but either way, it has a powerful experience, a powerful work on our lives. And so as opposed to like severing your brain and trying to block out the pain that way, a good thing to do sometimes, and we all get into these, especially work modes, where we're just driven and we're just like, we kind of isolate ourselves, and we get so into trying to crank out stuff that we don't give ourselves little breaks from it. And sometimes music can be that. And one of the things that I think is the sign of a good workplace is if there is at least part of your day that you have chores on your job that you can do while listening to music. If you have a workplace or an environment where that is, it's conducive to that, where the managers, the people in charge, whether you're the one or you're working for somebody else, where they understand there just needs to be some music, something to help you just to kind of relax your shoulders and feel a little bit, and not be caught up in the grind for 8 hours at a time. We all need that. We all need to step away. We all need to take breaks. We all need to walk around, stretch ourselves, depending on what kind of job you have. There are some jobs where they can work with earbuds in their ear and listen to music all the time. And those are nice. And others, like Tom, edit a lot of video and put music to it. And that's always fun to be able to work that. It's a blessing when you can do anything that involves music. And there is coming up, thanks to the work of some local volunteers, there's coming up an event that's coming in June that I wanted to tell you a little bit about. It's called Make Music Marion, and it is being organized for June 21st, where a different group of folks, different groups of folks in Marion, including the City of Marion and Josh Benson at the Marion Cultural and Civic Center, are working together with others who are organizing this. Marion Arts Squared is a nonprofit art council whose mission is to empower artists, encourage arts advocacy, and encourage these type of events. Marion Arts Squared is one of the organizations behind Make Music Marion, again, with Josh Benson, Marion Cultural and Civic Center, the Music Conservatory that is on Market Street, a lot of different organizations. And I was asked to just jump into a meeting this morning when I saw them at Crown Brew to help them kind of spread the word about this. And they're asking folks just to make music that day. They'd like to see music coming out of buildings and places and off of rooftops. And I've already talked to our worship band at Aldersgate Church about potentially doing an outdoor concert that day. Just different ways throughout the day that everywhere people go, they're going to hear music and different kinds of music. Mm-hmm. And you're reminded of the magic of music, the beauty of music, making it free to the public, open to all, everywhere you go that day. We have a studio on one side of our building, and for a year or more, there's been a band that rehearses there that involves some of our friends. Now they call themselves now Backline 5. And we're hoping that maybe Backline 5 can be performing in that space that day as people walk around the square. We know that Aaron Smith was there. Little Nashville's going to have music going on all day in there, and there's potentially going to be some music, a stage on the center of the square and possibly the other side of the square, and then on down Market Street and other directions from the square. But we'd like to see this spread all over Marion. So watch for more information on that. We'll be doing an article in Swinford Media. But you can ask for more information by right now emailing marionartssquared@gmail.com. marionartssquared@gmail.com. And you can check that out, find out how to sponsor or participate in that event. Doesn't that sound fun?
Yeah, that sounds like fun. I look forward to it.
I like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think that Marion does a very nice job of encouraging and supporting the arts. One of the stories coming out of Heron right now is the school board race, and one of the elements that one of the issues that's so important in that school board race is the arts and the arts in Heron schools. Heron traditionally has had strong arts programs. I'm talking about performing arts, fine arts, music, band, choir. Also, painting, drawing, graphic arts, those types of things. All of those things have been traditionally strong and well taught in Heron schools, and there's still some great teachers there, but some of the resources they have to work with have, fallen away over the years. And so there's a real drive to up that a little bit. And so that makes the school board race that's coming up on April 1st in Heron that much more important. It's one of the hottest races around right now. We'll have in the Heron Independent and Carterville Courier next week preview of that race, so you can meet all the candidates there. Appreciate folks that don't just want to sit around and complain about what we have or don't have, but they want to get involved and do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a little off subject here real quick, but Bill, I do believe that's one of the noisiest jackets I've ever heard in my life.
Well, see,
but it's perfect for this time of year.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, there's some people that really get into that kind of stuff. What do they call it? ASMR?
Yeah,
where,
I can hear that. So if people listening, especially those of you listening, if you hear the noise, that's been Bill the whole time.
It's a windbreaker. And
I don't have to edit it out. I don't want to deal with that. But this is to let you know it's a windbreaker.
It's March.
It's March.
It's windy. And it's been so windy this week. Wow. You know how when I was
it sounds like wind too.
Yeah, it kind of does. So when he moves, it's like
it has that wind sound to it.
I remember when I was a kid, March would come around, and I would want to fly a kite. I used to really get into flying kites when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have one, I would make one, and they were really bad and lame.
But did they fly?
But they did fly a little bit. I got better at it over time. I was making kites out of like old T-shirts and stuff at one time. That didn't.
No, those don't do too well.
That didn't work that well. Yeah. But I figured out the best materials to use for it. I remember one time that my kite string broke on a particularly windy day, and I can remember chasing that kite for blocks, trying to track down the kite because I'd made it myself.
The worst is when they get caught in those trees up high, and you just never get them.
I lived
back.
in the city, so I had the power line experiences multiple times. I wasn't afraid, but. Yeah. Or I had these ones that would like take these big, you get them way up there and they take this huge dive straight to the ground. They were destroyed. That happened often.
And sometimes you would save it at just the last minute.
And it'd go back up.
It gusted back up.
It's in the neighbor kid's house yard that you didn't like.
But no, I haven't flown a kite since Sophia was little. She used to love kites too.
Oh, yeah.
And
those were fun.
I mean, this feels like almost too much wind to fly a kite in right now. It's tough.
Yeah, I don't think it would.
Right.
Yeah, it's been tough the past couple of days.
It was Charlie Brown. It's one of those things Charlie Brown struggled with in his life. Was keeping that kite up.
Yeah.
Right? Pitching baseballs, kicking footballs, and flying kites.
It just reminds me of Ben Franklin and that lightning storm and that key. How did he live through that?
I guess he had did he have a cable that went
All right, is this a real thing? Because this has always been like a folklore thing. Where he's standing out there.
Thing?
Well, they say, Ben Franklin discovered electricity with a key and a kite, right?
Yeah.
Is that even true?
I don't know.
You've got a good point.
Well, I've heard that all my life. I
Yeah,
thought
you-
it was just like, of course, he wanted the turkey to be our national bird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, yeah, but that's and George Washington was over there talking about how he could not tell a lie.
Yeah.
That he chopped down the cherry tree.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
a real thing?
I don't know either.
Can we believe any of these stories?
I mean, it came up on the campaign trail. Like, politicians, they like to tell the
Oh,
truth.
they only tell the truth.
They only tell the truth. I mean, my goodness. I thought that's a qualification that you have to not tell the truth. Of course, the ones we don't always tell the truth.
We need to check into whether anybody could document that George Washington ever actually told
A lie.
Actually ever told a lie.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably
You'd
not.
think we could find something there.
The media made him a little. Were they?
George
did they go
Wash-
after him back then? Like they?
I don't think so. I think I mean they were out to make heroes back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
And I mean rightly so. They were rallying a bunch of patriots around a cause and so they needed a hero.
Yeah.
And George Washington probably was close, big tall strapping dude that pretty stoic from most reports.
But John Adams didn't like him that well. They
No.
had conflicts. But again, that
really?
goes back to
John
the
Adams was
original-
also kind of short and
Yeah.
squatty and didn't look like George Washington.
George Washington.
How did
so
he end up to be our second president
Yeah.
following George Washington? I guess he's the vice president.
he was the vice president, but at that time it was a separate, different party, if you remember.
Yeah, and back then, if you were if you got the second number of votes in the presidential election,
You were vice
president.
president.
So that
Yeah.
means you didn't have to like each other at all. You didn't have to support each other.
Which they didn't, and so he was excluded. In fact, that's that great series that goes through that.
And Aaron Burr then becomes Thomas Jefferson's vice
Yeah.
president, and Aaron Burr shot Alexander Hamilton and killed him dead, and that kind of killed his political career.
So
But
you think
somehow
it's
he stayed
bad-
vice president?
Yeah, you
despite
think
that.
it's bad today? They just didn't have television for it. It would have been great TV, all that stuff.
Would have been scandalous all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Thomas Jefferson had some stuff going on.
Yeah.
News doesn't spread as fast. But
No. Takes a few months, then
Well,
it's over with.
and-
and then it's all done, right?
Yeah, and people talk about this contentious time, and they talk a lot about the media. Okay, we are media. We try to be as objective as we can. What I tell people all the time, I want you to read my opinions page and not be able to tell necessarily what my own personal politics are. Now, anybody that knows me knows I'm pretty moderate anyway, so I'm kind of right in the middle a lot. I'm not overly anything, and I'm happy to not be. They talk about Fox News as opposed to that liberal
Side or whatever, yeah,
liberal
yeah.
mainstream news, whatever. I don't know, what do they even call it? They have a really derogatory.
Is it lame stream? Is that the one? Yes, that's the one. I'm trying to
that's
remember
it.
this.
You go back, at any point in our history, in America's history, there were newspapers. Well, the newspaper that I worked for 20 years was the Marion Daily Republican.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, when I was the editor, I was trying not to be overly Republican, although Marion is a kind of predominantly Republican town. We were trying to, keep all of our audience and yet present all sides. And some people never understand that. It's like just because they read some column that criticizes one side, well, stick around. You'll see one next week that criticizes the other side. We, just don't overreact to any of it because we're just trying to be a platform to present all sides. But in its day, when the Marion Republican started, I guarantee it's because they wanted people to know they were the Republicans. They were the Republican newspaper. They were the ones that you could go to get the Republican point of view. Why? Because there was there was another side. There was a liberal side. There was a.
But then that goes back to even some of those terms like the Democrat or the Republican, and those go back to the Civil War.
Yeah.
And the Republican was, which you wanted people to be, that kind of thing. So there's a lot to that.
And I think
history.
I think the Republican Party started out as the Democratic Republican Party or something like that. I mean, there was a combination, and then the Whigs were the enemy back then.
Yeah.
WHIGS Whigs, where that name came from, who knows? But
So much to that, and it's very hard.
Yeah.
I do miss the days though when you had the Walter Cronkite. And you
people,
had,
that's the name you hear from all the time.
everybody.
Yeah.
I liked Walter
Anybody that
Cronkite.
remembers Walter Cronkite
Yeah.
really, thinks of him as just the ideal newscaster who was just there to present objectively.
And then
the
when he
day's
gave an
news to you.
opinion, he would say,
is
which
my
he gave the
opinion.
one, he said, in
Yeah.
this reporter's opinion or whatever, he would
Yeah.
say that. And I do miss that. You even got that a lot of times back in the day with with the Ted Koppels and all the other ones. We
Right.
had that, and it's changed. And I debate it a lot because, again, now it's whoever owns whatever network or facility is where a lot of the bents are. And I miss that because some of the true journalists don't get to really do their work
Right.
the way they used to. And that's a
Well,
thing.
and again, the freedom of the press belongs to the person who owns the press.
Press,
all right,
yeah,
that
yeah.
that is the age old thing. So then it just comes down to, in my opinion, the patriotic character
Yeah.
of that owner. Right? Do you really want? Are you really here to stand for America's ideals? In other words, not that we're all one thing or we're all another, but that we are a melting pot, and are we going to reflect all those views? Not everybody looks at it that way, and they have the right because they own the press
Yeah.
to present their views as they want to. We are not none of our media is government supported. Thank God.
I know.
Thank God, constitutionally, we are not government supported. We are not government owned. You don't want a country where the government runs it, but then we also don't have the restrictions of the government where we're forced to be
Balanced.
balanced and diverse
Yeah.
in every
Yeah.
way. But some of us choose to be, just because we think, especially in our world today, people hunger for hearing the news from somebody that they don't think has an agenda that they're pushing behind it.
I think it's nice, like here with Swinford, like you guys do, because again, we got people from both parties doing a lot of different things in the community, very much involved, especially on the local level.
Right.
We all live here with one another, and a lot of the issues we have to solve together, no matter what our thoughts are.
And I think
know.
as I have a lot of conversations with people from both sides of the aisle, one thing that gets overlooked is how much we have in common.
Exactly.
Everybody has more. We all have more in common
Yeah.
than we realize.
And sometimes just a different way of getting to it, and
Right.
then it's
And the parties, they really want to get people excited,
Yeah.
to get them out to vote. When you get people riled up, they're more likely to get out and vote. And
that's how you get people to watch and listen too. That's what I used to
Right.
do
No,
news.
that's
That's
absolutely
that's
right.
what you do. I
And-
mean, we
and
all do
sometimes
that.
it ends up getting also just creating enemies in people's minds where
Yeah.
there are no enemies,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate.
And the
So-
one thing I really miss, because a lot of times I want to learn something I didn't know from someone else. Someone else in the community is experiencing something different than me. And I miss sometimes not having that opportunity to learn about that, because it opens up, okay, wait, now I understand why you feel that way about that. Why, even if I don't agree with it, at least I understand it, and I'm like, well, what can we do to get that done? And I think we have some really good leaders, I think, in our community that actually do that. And they
It's
try
just
to do that.
keeping the conversation going,
Yeah,
right? Being
that's the
able
big
to
thing.
be in a room together and have these conversations, clear up these misunderstandings. That most of this does not have to be looked at as a personal thing, and we do have enough room in this country and in our culture to disagree on some things. And sometimes you're
Yeah.
going to be right, sometimes it's going to be right, I'm going to be right, and sometimes 50 years from now it'll be proved that you were right and I was wrong, and I can be okay with that too.
And maybe 50% of the time I was right all the time, or 90%. So that's what we'll find out later.
We could find that out later.
That's what we all want to think.
Well, we'll find out. Hey, keep
Yes.
tuning in every week,
Yeah.
and we'll just keep checking in on these things. Like, I still want to know about that Valentine's candy. Was that right? No, never mind.
I wouldn't bring
Let it
that one
go,
up
Bill.
again. Let it go, Bill.
We just
Let it
could
go.
we just could bring in this stuff up.
She may whistle out of her eye. Be careful.
We
That's
just gotta figure out. We're
Let it
trying
go,
to figure out what's right or wrong.
Let it go, sweetheart.
She's gonna yell out of her eye. Be careful. So, flames
Hey.
shout out.
That
Hey,
hasn't happened yet.
hey, check out Severance. Now, let me say
Yeah.
this about Severance. Severance has got some bad words in it.
It does.
If you're not a fan of the bad words, especially one character, who's actually my favorite character, Dylan,
He's funny.
drops the F-bomb quite a bit.
Yeah.
But he's just one of these guys that just talks that way.
Yeah.
If you can get past that,
Still a likable guy.
still
Character,
still a likable guy. I mean, they're all a little mixed up and again, this guy Dylan he's an innie.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, he
Not
doesn't
a
know
belly
much.
button. It's a
Somehow
thing.
he
Again,
retained
wanna remind
that
you.
word when he lost his memory of everything else on the outside word.
He didn't lose that word.
He did not.
No, but really, in the whole scheme of of TV offerings these days. I mean, sometimes it's a little hard to watch, but it's not. There's not a high level of gore or that has its moments.
It does.
Including the season
Season 2
finale.
finale had its gore moments. So,
But it's
it
somehow
waits till you're at season 2 for
Yeah.
see what season 3 holds.
No,
in
it's
2026.
it gives you a lot to
Long
think
time
about.
away.
It really does. I was thinking a lot about it today because they're just like, would this really work or not? Is this really a thing that somebody could decide is a good idea and would actually try this?
Right. Well, let's withhold our. I just no more spoilers. We don't
I
want to
have
give any
not
spoilers.
given a single spoiler. I've just tried to describe the show for people. People are going to
Okay.
appreciate that I was here to tell them what it was like
Oh, yeah.
before they jumped in on it, right?
Yeah.
Some people have already decided they're going to go check it out.
See,
yeah.
I've
And
already
I'm-
forgotten it, and the only thing I'm remembering out of this whole podcast is Monica's ability to whistle out of her eye.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's
Tom
kind
doesn't
of hard to
Tom
forget.
doesn't really need severance because he's got that ability. Just forget.
Yeah, that's
As
right.
soon
I
as he
do.
hears something.
It's gone. Yeah.
That's why we record this, right? People like
I
Tom.
can forget a lot of things.
So he can play it
Oh,
back.
there's no audio.
He can keep
Whoops.
playing it back.
Oh, I forgot that camera
Yes,
angle.
that's happened before.
Sorry,
too.
Bill. That's I forgot about you.
All right, we'll start over. No, never mind. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in every time that you do. Swinford Media Group is going to continue to keep cranking out our papers every week and continue to try to feed information consistently to the web. And hey, look, it's you can't
Bear
see.
the studio
Bear
dog.
is,
I can't
Bear
see
is-
him.
Bear is going by. From here in the Tom Mann studio, I'm Bill Swinford.
And I'm Monica Daniels.
And I'm Tom.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.